Welcome, my dear guys and gals, to the discussion of Powercreep and Honkai Star Rail. I am your host, Likamish, and let's get started with the discussion.
Now, I have seen a couple of videos where many YouTubers mention Powercreep to the characters in Honkai Star Rail. Well, yes, some characters are stronger than others, but Powercreep? I don't think so. In gaming, Powercreep describes when new, more powerful characters, weapons, or other features are added to a game, subsequently making previous powerful characters, weapons, and features worthless and obsolete. Now, of course, some way to do it is the balance of the characters with buffs and nerfs. But sometimes, even that, the fundamentals of the older characters cause them to become irrelevant because someone better came around to do their job better. Now that we have gone over what Powercreep is, let's go over the few reasons why it's a bit harder to fall on Powercreep Honkai Star Rail. First is character roles and kits.
In Honkai Star Rail, there are your combat types and they are your paths. Now, paths are your classes, combat types are your element. So let's go over them very, very quickly. Destruction is your flex. They're going to be the ones to take a little bit of damage, right? They can be a bit tanky. They can do some damage, right? They can do some single target damage and some area damage. But that's it. They're your flexes. They can basically do a little bit of everything. Then you have your hunt. Hunt, now that's your speedy, super fast, but fragile DPSs. They're going to be the ones that are really good at killing one enemy. Like a boss. If there's a boss, boom, just wipe them off the face of the earth. But if there's multiple enemies, sure, that one enemy over there is going to die, but the other ones will still be alive. And that's where your addition comes in. Your addition, now that's your area control. Now, you see some enemies over there? Ooh, they're gone, wiped off the face of the map. You see some enemies over there? Woof, they're gone, wiped off the face of the map. They're going to be the ones to make sure that the crowds die down so your hunt or your destruction can focus on those lonely, lonely bosses. Then you have your harmony. Harmony, that is going to be your supports. They're going to be the ones to buff you up for you to get in there and do the big numbers that you want to see. Heck, even one-shot a boss with your hunt character. I like that a lot. That's all they really do. They mainly do something to buff your damage. Nihility, on the other hand, they are your debuffers. Defense down, speed down, health down, whatever it is to take that enemy's high power level and bring it down a little bit. So it makes it easier for your DPSs over here to do even more damage. Think of them as harmony, but the opposite. Instead of buffing your team, it debuffs the enemy team. Yin and yang right there. Sometimes they can be DOT, a bit of a thing I have to put in. And DOT means that it's damage over time. Think of it as a disease that's slowly withering away your body till there's nothing left. That's damage over time. At the beginning of enemy's turn, they're going to take some damage. Then you have your perseverance. Perseverance, now, they are your tanky boys. They're going to take all the hits. They're going to take all the aggression. And they'll have ways to support your team a little bit here and there, whether it's through shields or damage reduction. Because that's all we've seen so far. I have to put in the note that this is from the patch that is Argenti. We're up to Argenti in terms of characters. So if the destruction does something, not the destruction, but the perseverance does something else, then they will do something else to support their team. But for now, shield to damage reduction. Then you got your healers. Your healers, now, they're not going to be the ones to take all the damage like perseverance, right? But they're going to be the ones to keep your team alive. They're going to heal your team, give your team more HP. It's really that simple. They're not meant to take hits. They can die usually pretty easily. But this guy, he ain't going to die. If you have him right, have him built right, you ain't going to die. Also, I'll revoke my statement about healers dying easy. They can be pretty tanky because of the way that you usually scale in order for them to heal. Then you have your combat types over here, which are your elements. They go quantum, physical, fire, ice, electric, grass, and imaginary. But that's a lot of diversity to power creep already. Especially like games compared to Overwatch, where there's only like 3 categories, which is tank, DPS, and support. Now, of course, there's subcategories like point tank, off tank, flankers, and then I guess non-flankers, I don't know, and then healers and what was it, like hybrids, like hybrid DPSs, I don't know. But like I said, they have a little bit of subcategories, but they're all mainly defined into their separate category, which is tank, DPS, and healer. And even if you count these subcategories, it does not match the diversity of the combat types and the paths. That's basically 7 times 7 of different possibilities. You could have a quantum, that's a destruction. You can have a physical, that's a hunt. Continues. But then, let's talk about those kits in the game that helps these mechanics and the fight against power creep go even further.
In Honkai Star Rail, the combat is pretty complex yet simple at the same time. Watch your skill point, resource, hurt enemy, survive, break weakness. Oh yeah, that bit right there. Let's talk about it. Weakness break is when your combat type matches the enemy's weakness. You'll be able to tell thanks to that orange bar telling you how much you're about to pound that juicy white bar in. Hit a few times to eventually shatter it, doing burst damage, slowing the enemy, causing them to take more damage thanks to the burst, and having a unique effect placed on them depending on your combat type. This is important, especially in boss fights. Most bosses you face, you want to kill quickly but also not die. Doing weakness break can give you much needed space from the enemy pushing your shit in. Making which type you bring important, which also makes it so even though this character is technically the best, you're encouraged to match the weakness, making power creep even harder since characters have to compete with roles on other types. Unless you have Silverwolf. Then, well, you don't have to worry about it, but let's just assume that you don't have her or you don't want her on the team. Let's put a little example fight right here. Let's say you're fighting this annoying fuck. The Modatron, Gatekeeper, whatever his name is, I just call him Pipe Man. And you have Foul Trailblazer, Donghong Plus, Bronya, and Lynx. A simple tank, DPS, support, healer setup. You use Foul Trailblazer to taunt to get the robot's attention on her/him. You also use Lynx to dispel, heal her/him, and give her/him extra taunt value. My gosh, this is getting annoying saying her/him. Taunt value is the likeliness of being attacked. Preservation and destruction have the highest taunt value in the game, while hunt has the lowest. You have Bronya to also dispel and support your inhibitor lane, and of course, Donghong Plus is your main DPS. So you've been fighting this fucker for a while, and the robot is low and so is his weakness bar. Currently, he's in sanction mode. He just gave the divine pipe to your healer. She is imprisoned with an ult, and you can't do shit, while your tank missed the taunt. Fuck. Your main DPS is low, so it's his turn, and the robot man goes right after you. So you throw everything at it. Your ult, your skill, but he's imaginary res. So, Donghong Plus combat type doesn't match the bar. So, Robo Pipe Man tanks it, and since your destruction having the second highest taunt value in the game, he decides to give you the divine pipe. So now, your main DPS is dead, and it's just a while before he pipes the rest of your team into failure. So let's change up the situation a little bit. Let's go ahead and remove Donghong Plus, and then put in Sali instead. Better. Same situation, but since Sali's combat type matches the bar, you break his bar more often, so the boss is even closer to death. Again, your healer went to jail. You're low. It's just you and him. You use your skill and ult, but somehow he survives because you didn't crit. Life's great, huh? But you broke his weakness. He is broken. But unfortunately, he still got his turn back because, oh no, the speed was just against you, I guess. So he attacks. But you are Hunt. Celie is a Hunt character. That means your taunt value is lower than everyone else in the game. And let's not forget that her trace gives her even reduced target priority. So that means her taunt value is even lower. So he goes for it. So he pipes your tank. Since your tank has the highest taunt value, so in the highest probability scenario, he attacks your tank. But guess what? When he pipes her, she is built to last, like Honda. So she is perfectly fine and honestly didn't even really care about that hit. So then eventually your healer recovers, uses her ult to heal up everyone else, and you proceed to send this pipe robot man fuck to the scrapyard where he belongs.
There you go. Always Celie has been better than the person she's supposed to be, weaker against, and therefore power creeped. This example is out of the many that could occur in fights with your team. The game will punish you unless your team is absolutely perfect, with the best supports, the best DPS, the best everything, right? The best build to hypercarry. Which, let's be honest, most of the player base, they won't reach that. Hell, I was on Honkai Star Rail ever since launch, and I still haven't gotten the best gear. Final pause. Let's wrap this up.
Relics, light cones, otherwise known as the bane of players' existence. Just like the rest of their Gacha game lineup, you have gear that can be equipped on your character to make them stronger. And Honkai Impact 3rd, to be honest, it doesn't matter that much. In Genshin Impact, it's a requirement, I believe. I don't know, I only played the game at launch, it only dipped within a month. And then you have Honkai Star Rail. To put it in perspective, your character is absolute garbage if you do not have the right gear. Builds are very important in this game. First, relics. Relics are these little pieces of gear that you go to a cavern or corrosion, or while playing Simulated Universe to get. It is important that you get good substats on this gear. Like, you can get a good main stat, but if you don't got good substats, it's not going to end well for you. It is absolutely agonizing. To get a good subset of gear, right? You get crit rate on your chest piece, something very rare. And you look at your substats and you see 3 flat values. Like, you absolutely got to be kidding me. Why do I get 3 flat values? Flat value stats is when you get a number, not a percentage. The only good flat value stat is speed, for your information. Like, like, you look at that, and you're like, oh, he's gonna be all good, and then you realize your damage will be absolutely fucking abysmal, because you don't got good substats. I have played this fucking mission over 40 times, and I don't have any good gear.
Oh, where the fuck am I? Ow! Oh, hi. Okay, so where was I? Ah, that's right, light codes. Now, personally, I call them cards because they're like, that's just easier for them to say to me. So think of it as grabbing a good old Harmony character and throwing them into a card. Got it? I'm glad we understand.
Now that I'm back from my little escapades, light cones is basically a buff to your character to make them do at what they do best. Light cones are the most important gear, in my opinion. Even though I just had a seizure and ended up in a completely different game, you will still get plenty of armor. You just have to pay attention to it, and eventually the RNG gods will give you something decent. Light cones, on the other hand, are way more limited. You only get them in a few ways. Pulling banners, the Simulated Universe shop, the Light Cone shop, and then the shop that you can spend your little shards on from getting characters. And that's basically it. Unless an event comes around, there's not that many ways of getting light cones, honestly. And they're one of the most important pieces of the game. They're going to give you the biggest health boost, attack boost, defense boost. And depending on what the card does, it'll make you do so much more than what you thought you could do. I would say overall, that gear is the biggest fact in making Powercreep hard. Even if the character is good as a base and better at base than other characters, that character you already have built would outperform them. Unlike games in Honkai Impact 3rd, where you could usually just swap gear off of a character and slap it onto another without not much changing, in this game, characters' kits are a lot more complex, I would say, or I would say stat heavy. Clara, for example, needs effect revs and some type of defense, either defense or health, because her main gimmick is taking damage to do damage. Then you have Blade, which scales off HP, so you want him to have tons of it. Then you have Sampo, who needs high attack and high effect hit rate to do his debuffs. And then you have Jinlu and Yang Qing, who have, oh, and let's not forget Branya, who has high crit rate. So instead of going for crit rate in their kit, you want to go for crit damage. And it goes on and on and on. There's just so many factors at play here to cover them all. So back to Powercreep. You have combat type, path, character kit, relics, light cones, boss and enemy effector as a weakness. Then there's the stuff, for the sake of time, I could even get into, like team synergy. Like if you're running Celie, you want her to be killing enemies to get a damage buff. So maybe you shouldn't run your addition with her that might steal her kill. Or, are you fighting trash or bosses? Because if you're fighting loads and loads of trash, maybe instead of just having Celie kill all the trash, you can just have your addition take out the trash, right? And what does the boss do? Are they all by themselves? Do they spot a lot of trash? So do you want to run Celie to kill that trash to do more damage on the boss? Or, for example, do the boss do a lot of debuffs, right? Maybe you want to run Ho-Ho instead of Lucha because they run a crap ton of debuffs and you want them cleansed. Or maybe the boss does a crap ton of damage to you, so you run Lucha for those unbridled heals. And then, like, what buffs do your team gets, like events and such? In Simulated Universe, you get certain buffs, and a lot of events that come out, you get buffs for doing certain things, and it encourages you to use this certain type of character because these certain type of characters are good with those buffs. For example, Memory of Chaos is a fantastic example of needing different team synergies to beat not Simulated Universe, but Memory of Chaos. All of this put together, right? All of this tangents and rambling, that makes Powercreep hard to be a massive problem in the game. Oh, and let's not forget that you cannot be Powercreeped if you weren't good in the first place.
This was your host, Leakamish, opening the discussion to the comments below. Taking a rest, getting screwed over by Honkai Star Rail gear system, saying farewell to you all.